Okay, joining us right now on the phone from the friendly confines of Ontario is Peter Pete Johnson. Pete, how's it going?
It's awesome, thanks, Sean. The friendly confines of Ontario. That's hilarious. Oh,
Oh
God.
man, um, you know, so here, Pete, the weather. I'm in Saskatoon today, and the weather is gorgeous. Like I walked in without a coat. It is really, really nice. Probably a 40-degree difference from last year at this time. There is some snow cover here, but I know back in Lethbridge we have no snow. A lot of people talking about what if I went out and seeded some wheat? And, I thought of you because I know in the past we've done some videos on frost seeding. Do you have any advice, tips, or things to avoid for people that are thinking about maybe going out and taking a flyer on, say, 100 acres of frost seeding wheat?
Yeah, so that's way cool because I actually had a tweet from a guy in southern Michigan just last week saying, hey, is it too late to seed winter wheat in southern Michigan? It was too wet the entire fall. It's finally
Wow.
dried up enough that I can get out there. Is it worth doing that? So whether you're in Ontario or Michigan looking at the last chance to put in winter wheat, and be careful on winter wheat because it's got to vernalize. So for sure, it's got to be seeded in January. If we get into February, it's not going to vernalize, so you just have a narrow window there left to get that in the ground. But Western Canada, why wouldn't you go out there and just play around? So don't do
Try
the
it.
typical farmer thing and seed a section or some silly thing like that. But go out there and do some strips. In all of our work, early seeding pays, and pays the best in spring wheat. So the tips are, make sure you get it in the ground. If it's on top of the ground, it's just almost for sure a failure. It has to be in the ground. I like to see it an inch in the ground because you just need that seed to soil contact. You need to protect it a little bit. And that inch deep planting seems to work fairly well. And make sure you use well-treated seed because you are putting it in a hostile environment. So don't shave your seeding rate. Make sure you use a good seed treatment, and then just do some strips in a couple of fields to play around with and see whether or not there's something there. Because it's a fun thought process.
So let's go through this real quick here, Pete, before we wrap up. Okay, so I go out there, I do those things. What do I want to have happen? I don't want it to germinate yet. I just want it to sit there, right?
Yeah, on spring wheat, the worst thing you can have actually is for it to germinate, because if it does germinate, that means that its cold tolerance is quite low, and you're in Western Canada, so if it goes below -9 and it's germinated and just germinated, then for sure it's just going to get taken out. And so we would prefer that you put it into cold soil, preferably below 2 Celsius, and it doesn't get above 2 Celsius. We call wheat a base zero crop. It's really 2 degrees Celsius that it tends to grow at. So get it in the ground. Best if the ground is frozen, and then come March or April, when things do warm up, the seed's in the ground. You don't have to worry about it being too wet to seed or whatever. And once it starts to grow, it just takes off. And don't worry about early spring frost once it's emerged, because, again, the growing point's below the ground. You can take those top leaves off, and believe it or not, you virtually don't hurt the yield at all. So I'm not worried about those frosts, but super cold temperatures with no snow cover after you seed it, if it germinates, it's in bad shape.
Okay. So, and you've seen great success in Ontario with this, right? Like
40%.
40%. Yeah,
40% yield increase.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So, I'm very interested in this, and I've had sitting here today, 2 conversations about this already. People are thinking about it, but I think you brought up a really good point. Don't fall into that trap of I'm going to go seed 2,000 acres. Like, just try it. tippy toe into it.
If it was March, so some of the growers that have tried it, they've tried it in March, and actually one of the things that they talk about is if they get out there, and you won't likely get all your wheat seeded if you start in March and get some frost seeding done, but you're kind of getting out of the risk of really low temperatures killing the crop. And then if you get whatever. They went and planted, I don't know, 1,000 acres or 2,000 acres. And what happened was that they got enough wheat planted that they got their canola and their lentils planted on a more timely basis. And so everything yielded more because they were more timely in seeding across all their crops. But this
Okay.
time of year, I think you got
I
to
was
go
going to
slow.
say, yeah, okay. So about a minute left, Pete. What about fertilizer? What do you do? Do you just go at it like you normally would, or do you think about the fact you're going to top dress later?
Yeah, so on the phosphorus front, you have to put some seed placed or some mid-row band phosphorus. That wheat crop needs it early. The nitrogen, I think you wait. I'm not too worried about a nitrogen issue, but phosphorus, absolutely critical.
Hey, Pete, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it, and maybe our paths will cross in Ontario this week.
Yeah, you're in Eastern Ontario. I'm in Western Ontario. That's still quite a piece apart, Sean, but we'll see.
It's not like Western Canadian apart, but it is apart. You're right. Hey, Pete, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Have a great afternoon.